Hello and welcome to the CSE Club's Intro to Unity Workshop. Now this is going to be a beginner-friendly workshop. It's solely for beginners and people who are interested in getting into Unity. And in this workshop, we're going to simply just be creating a player and have it move in a field. And I'll be going all the different tabs for Unity. And also, at the end of the video, we'll be showing some resources you can use if you want to continue working with Unity. So now, let's get started. The first thing you want to do is you want to go into Unity Hub and you want to open it, and you're going to create a new project, and you want that project to be a 3D template. You can name it whatever you want, and then after that you're going to click create. Since I already created a project, I'm just going to double click on mine to have it open up. And while this is loading, we're just going to wait for Unity to load up everything for us, and this can vary depending on how fast your computer is. So here's what my site looks like. Your overall setup might look a little different, but these are all the templates you should still see. So the first thing we're going to look at is the hierarchy window. And anytime you make a new project in Unity, there will always be a sample scene and we'll have these two game objects in it. And these are your main camera and your directional light. And they're held inside the hierarchy tab. Now the hierarchy window is where all your game objects are going to be kept. It's just a pure folder showing you all the game objects that are inside your current scene that you are on. And right next to that is the scene view. And the scene view is what you, the editor, are going to be seeing while you make adjustments to your game and anything you basically want to do inside of it. And you also have your game view, and this is what the player is going to see, and it's also what your game is going to look like during the final finish. I like to keep the two of them right next to each other, that way I can make adjustments and see how it directly affects my game in real time. And over here, you have the inspector window. Now the inspector window is the main settings for any game object. It shows you what's inside of it, it shows you its attributes like its position, rotation, and scale. And you also have your project window. This is your main file organizer. This is where all your assets and files will be kept throughout your entire project. And right next to that, you have your console window. And if you're into programming, this should be very straightforward. This is where all the errors will be displayed, and anything you want to have directly go to the console will be displayed here. You also have other tabs like your animator, animation, and audio mixers, but for this project, we're not really going to be focusing on them. Now, just to do a quick review in case I went a little too fast, you got hierarchy, where all your game objects are kept, scene, where you work, game, which is the final end product, inspector, the settings and attributes for all your game objects, and project window, where all your assets are held. So, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a simple game object that's going to act as our player. And there's several ways we can do this. The first way is that we're going to right click in the hierarchy window. We'll go down to 3D objects and we're going to click sphere. Another way to do it, let's delete that, is go into game objects, 3D object, and sphere. Now, as you can see, it's way up here in the sky, and that's because whenever we create an object, it tends to be in a random area somewhere in your view. So to fix that, you want to go over to the inspector window, you'll see transform, and if you look at the top right, you'll see three dots. You'll click on it and click reset. And I'll put it to an origin of 0, 0. Now the next thing we're going to do is you want to do Control S or File, Save, to save your game. I recommend doing that so that way Unity does not auto-save, so you don't risk losing anything. And you'll notice these arrows right here. This is called the Move tool, and these are what these icons up here for. Now the Move tool does as the name says, lets you move across an axis linearly. You got your Rotation tool. Since this is a sphere, rotating it won't really do anything. You got your Scale tool, which lets you scale it and from the X, Y, or Z axes. And you also got your Rectangle tool. Now this does both scaling and transforming at the same time. So let's just do Control Z to set it back to its original. So let's do File, Save, and the next thing we're going to create is, let's click on the sphere, and let's reset it. Now we're going to create another game object. We go into 3D object, and this time we're going to click plane. Notice there's a shadow over it. That's because the plane is right over it, blocking the light. So let's just put it down. And let's make it a bit bigger. So we can use the scale tool. That's something I like to use. We can really adjust it. And if we use the the center of your mouse, you can rotate in and out. And if you hold right click, you can use the view, decide how you want to see it. Just to give you guys, in case you didn't get it, you're going to right click on your mouse and hold it until this icon, this eye icon appears, and this will let you control the perspective of what you want to see. Now, notice how this won't affect what appears in the game view. You'll have to adjust the camera if you want to do that. Let's get the sphere. Let's put it dead center. Make the plane a little bit bigger. And if you want, you can make the camera and attach it to the player. This is like a half-assed way of having the camera follow the player if you want to see more. So do Control S, and to do that, to have the camera be apart, you can just click and drag it, and I'll parent it directly to the sphere. Let's rename this as player so that way you guys won't get confused. Now the next thing we're going to do is create some textures. We're going to change the colors since the player and the player are the exact same thing and get confusing. We're going to create material. Let's call this one ground. You'll go over to the inspector window, go down to where it says albedo, click on the white block right next to it, and the color spectrum will color. You're going to make it green, or whatever color you want, it really doesn't matter. And then you can click and drag it into your scene view, and it'll automatically change the color for you. And in case you guys weren't able to keep up with that, don't worry about it. We're going to do the exact same thing again, but we're going to do it for our player. You're going to right click, create, material, click on the albedo, change it to a different color, and we'll drag it to be on our player. See, now they're very different from each other. Now we're going to do Control Save. I'm going to leave this open for a little bit so you guys can tell what to look for and make sure all your settings line up, just so you can catch up. Alrighty. So hopefully you guys got that down. Now we're going to move on to the fun part. We're going to create a C# script. So right click on the project window, click create. I'm going to click C# script. And we'll name this one Player Movement. Wait for it to load up. And inside every Unity C# script will always be formatted like this. We'll get a void start and a void update. Now void update is called once per frame. It's something that constantly happens over and over again. So since we're programming movement, that's exactly where update goes. Void start is something you only want to do once, like if you want to declare or grab something, etc. Now, usually I would just go through what everything does one at a time, but I want to save you guys some time. I'll just do everything in one go. So first thing we want to declare when you want to do movement is speed. If you don't have any speed, you ain't going nowhere. So we're going to do a public float speed. I don't know how to use a keyboard, so we're going to have to go back. And we'll call it 5F. And in void start, we're going to do RB equals get component RB equals get component, open and close arrows, body, do open and close, semicolon, and update. This is where we're going to assign our movement. So we're going to do a float horizontal. I'm going to have it equal input dot get axis. Make sure to keep the A and the G capital. And inside these parentheses, we're going to put horizontal. And that's because Unity already has in its project settings a declaration of horizontal and what keyboard buttons go to it. That's for this, we don't even have to write the rest of it. We just copy and paste it. There we go. Now we're going to declare we're going to get vector3 movement. I'm going to have to equal a new vector3. This line code is really important because it will help the vector constantly update, so the new will always be declared, and that will help you just realistically change it over time. And we're going to put for the vector3, it's first going to be horizontal axis. Go back. And we're going to put a comma, 0, comma, vertical axis. I'm going to have that be times speed times time dot delta time. Always check for syntax errors. That's something that can get you really easily. And then we're going to do RB dot RP dot move position. And we're going to do open and close. And we're going to declare transform dot position plus movement. And then right here, something I forgot to put was we want to put a private rigid body. I'm going to call it RB. Clean this up a little bit. And then do Control S. Now let's see how this code works. Alright, so we got some errors. So right here is time is not contained in the definition of delta time. Let's go back to it. Let's make sure we did this right. Here it is. I put another T by accident. I'll click enter. Control S. Let's go back and see what happens. Like the error's still there. Let's try to figure out what's going on. No. Unity's very case sensitive. There we go. Everything's all fixed. So let's make sure. And take the script and drag it. Here we go, right here. You need to be careful when you name them. Never put a space because you'll get confused and won't know what you're referring to. There we go, play movement. And it has a speed of 5. Let's do Control S. And right here's the play button, and we're going to see what happens. And you can use the WSD controls in order to control the ball, so let's see. Okay, as you can see, the ball isn't moving after I press the buttons. So that's because we're missing a small step. Luckily, go to the console, it'll tell us what we're missing. And we're missing a rigid body physics component. And Unity has its own physics built in. So let's just type in rigid body. There it is. Make sure it's rigid body, not rigid body 2D. We're going to take it right there. We're going to do a Control S. Let's clear. And let's see. It should work now. Here we go. The ball's flat. That means it has physics. So let's try to control it. Now if you look, you can tell that we're moving it. You can do this with WSD, and you can do this with your keyboard. It's kind of hard to tell the ball rotating, but there we go, and it would just fall instantly. And that's how you can do some basic movement controls. And make sure, for declaring horizontal and vertical like we do in our code, let's go into our project settings. You're going to click on Edit, go all the way to the bottom of the project settings, and if you go into Input Manager, you should have something that calls horizontal and vertical. And they should already have the negative button being left, right, and I have A and D set. So I'm going to stay on here so you guys can see it for a minute. And then you do the same here. So let me extend it so you guys can get a good look. You can pause the screen if you want to make sure everything's set up. Alright, and that's everything we're going to be doing in this tutorial. So, it's all basic movement controls, and I'm going to show you a good site to use if you guys want to continue with Unity. Using the Unity scripting API and or just the Unity website stores a bunch of tutorials for you if you guys want to continue going on with Unity. So Unity has its own tutorial page where you can go here. There's a lot of different tutorials for you to use. These are all made by people who work for Unity and other professional programmers and game designers, and they show you step by step of everything you learn. So I hope you guys use everything you want to use here. Here's the URL, and I hope you have a nice day, and thank you for coming to the CSE Clubs workshop. Thank you. Goodbye.